Chapter 7. At a little past 6 the next morning, Cassandra found she could not sleep. Thoughts of Stephanie's words still rung in her mind. Images formed whenever she shut her eyes, even just to blink. Sights of a garden, its keepers and a snake, a sword of fire, one brother standing over another, an unfinished tower somewhere in the distance, all soon washed away by a mighty torrent. When the water receded, she imagined a house, a young woman there on her knees, and a figure standing in shadow before her, saying, "Be not afraid." The floodwaters receded. Mankind survived, but would still suffer from the temptation of evil. This much she was already sure of. But were they always that way? Had a single snake in a garden really made them all like that? And what creator would wash them away instead of helping them? And what kind of creator would choose one of these supposedly so wicked creatures to bear his son? "I used to think Catholics worshipped her," Stephanie said. "Tim set me straight on that. They pray to her, ask for advice, but it isn't worship. However similar it looks." "Was she strong?" "Good?" Cassandra asked. Stephanie chuckled. "You give me a lot of credit for carrying a baby to term. It was a lot harder back then. Trust me." From there, the readings became much calmer, even pleasant, though her friend stopped when she mentioned someone called Herod and said, I'm gonna come back to that part later. We're finally getting some momentum again. I don't want to kill it so fast." The readings became easier, if jarring after the other things she described before. The coming of the angel Stephanie described as magnificent. The birth of the baby boy in the stable, losing and then finding him again at the temple. It was all easy to understand and not nearly so frightening. These thoughts mixed together with memories of the hungry and homeless from the night before. Broadly, she knew helping people was in her job description. But it was rare she got up close and personal with that kind of societal hurt. That old friend of Stephanie's still stuck out the most. She said she was fighting with her mother to the point that she'd escaped her for a while. But why? Sadie hadn't been specific. Cassandra grew up with her own share of violent parental struggles, and though they probably had little in common with this woman's, the thought still made her head hurt. She started to rouse a little when she heard a few steps outside her door, cracked just slightly open. Alfred eased it open to look in at her. "Are you awake, Miss Cassandra?" "Yes," she sat up. "Very good." He gave her a small smile, but then let it fall as he showed his more serious side. "Master Bruce has requested you join him in the cave. He wanted to fill you in on what happened when you stepped away last night." "Thank you." Cassandra pulled herself out of bed, breathed a sigh, and got dressed when Alfred departed. "Glad to see you," Bruce said when she joined him in the hideaway beneath the manor. He was still half-dressed in his costume, and typing something on the gigantic computer mounted against the wall. "You were out pretty late last night." "I'm sorry," Cassandra said. "Didn't mean to be gone so long, but asked if I wanted to help these people." "Don't apologize," Bruce said. "But in the future, keep me more informed. If things start to fire up out here again, I need to be able to call you in. Tim and I are still just two people." Cassandra nodded. "And unfortunately, I've got a bad feeling someone is determined to start fanning flames. Come over here." She walked over to the computer as Bruce referred to one of the smaller windows on the monitor. On it, a bloody, bound Maxie Zeus snarled at the camera that captured his photo. He was pretty torn up before we even got there, and we reviewed the security footage. He moved his mouse to another screen, this one of men in Zeus's toga costumes attacking others dressed the same way. Another attack from within, just like what happened to Cobblepot. "What does it mean?" Cassandra asked. "That what happened with the Penguins men wasn't an isolated incident." Bruce shook his head and pointed to one more window up on the computer. "And this one didn't come without leaving a clue." A word was spray-painted on the wall in the last shot Bruce referred to, though Cassandra could not make it out. She turned toward him, and he read it aloud. "Pagan." "What is that?" Cassandra asked. "Guess Stephanie didn't get to that part yet," he said. "It can mean a lot of things, but judging by our anonymous friend's style, it's used to separate his ideas from Zeus's." "What do you mean?" "I think we may be dealing with a religious zealot." When he noticed Cassandra did not fully comprehend his words, he followed with, "Like anarchy, but with Christianity instead of governmental destruction." Cassandra felt her blood begin to run cold. "What?" "Someone who's letting their ideas trump their value of life," Bruce said. And I'm sorry that this is the time you have to learn about such a thing. Does it happen often? She tried to push the fear out of her mind. Not often, no, Bruce said. Just like most anarchists aren't like anarchy, and most environmentalists aren't like poison ivy. It appears we're dealing with a, hopefully small, group of extremists. Upon seeing the continued look of quiet distaste on Cassandra's face, Bruce turned toward her and said, "Even what we do can be twisted into something murderous." He glared toward one of the glass containers, housing a worn, beaten Robin costume. "Don't let this discourage you. Maniacs will crop up in every circle of ideas. That doesn't taint the circle as a whole." He turned to resume his work when Cassandra, after a quiet moment of thought, asked, "What do you think of this?" "Think of what?" Bruce asked. "What I am learning," Cassandra said. Bruce turned back toward his work. "This is a matter where my opinion shouldn't affect what you think." Cassandra felt surprised. She was sure he'd never told her anything like that before. "Just want help," she said. "I almost always agree with what you tell me." Bruce was quiet for a moment before replying. "I used to be in touch with a hero calling himself the Spectre. If what he said was true, he is literally the wrath of God." He paused again and considered his own words. "And if that's true, the God I know is very different from the one in your book. But like I said, this isn't my concern, Cassandra." "You never say that," she said. "I never told Dick to lead those titans of his either. All of you need to know how to choose for yourselves, regardless of my thoughts. It'll be better for you, in and out of the costume." Bruce glanced over his shoulder again briefly. "Barbara has the same information I gave you, and we're going to turn our attention towards furthering those leads tonight. Can I expect you to be there?" "Yes," Cassandra said. Bruce nodded and turned his back again. Cassandra was about to leave when she remembered a conversation she had the night before. "Oh," she said. "Stephanie wanted to make sure she was still welcome. Make sure you didn't fire her again." She laughed a little as she said it. "She's really never going to let me live this down, is she?" Bruce said. "I'll tell you what I told Tim. If she wasn't such a wild card, I'd have her out more often." He reached across his desk, clutched and then sipped from a cup of coffee, and muttered, "I hate wild cards." Cassandra laughed and excused herself from the cave. The moment of levity did just a little to relieve her before thoughts of fear and disgust again began to make their way into her mind.